Hello.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It's 6:02 p.m. This is the regular business meeting of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Members present include myself, Chair Jacob Pride, Vice Chair Robert Levenheim, Supervisor Michael Albert, Township Manager Julia Heilicke, Administrative Coordinator Diana Salvi, Engineer Melissa Hutchison, and Solicitor Ron Karasak. Announcements: there was a standing executive session this evening from 4:36 p.m. to 5:53 p.m. with regard to life safety matters and attorney-client privilege matters. Also wanted to note that our Hop and Hunt event is still scheduled for April 19th from 1 to 3 p.m. So please come join us. Tomorrow is the Rivers Edge Bike Park Committee meeting at 6. We'll hear about the results from the survey and a couple other exciting things, which I'll let you give a preview of later. And just to note that the community garden apiary locations are available. You can contact Diana or Alex about that. We have 5 sets of minutes: the January 9th, 2025 regular meeting, the February 11th, 2025 regular meeting, the February 25th regular meeting, the February 27th joint meeting, and the March 11th, 2025 regular meeting. Do I hear a motion on those?
Motion to approve all.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Albert. Questions?
I thought we'd approved one of these before, but
They were a lot.
I thought we approved the 25th, but I'm looking at the other minutes to see if we approved those minutes. Oh, no, we didn't. Okay.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Bills and obligations. Oh, give me 1 second while I turn to that page. Grand total of $422,604.59. The only 2 expenses that are out of the ordinary, one is capital improvements, the Peterbilt truck, and the other is the LSA grant for Marshall's Creek Fire Company. That's the air cleaning systems. That was about $199.
Oh, what was that? Oh, for
Air cleaning systems. Yeah, that was the LSA grant. Do I hear a motion on the bills?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim. Do I hear a second?
a second.
Second, Mr. Albert. Questions?
The superheat, was that the water main? No.
That is replacing our HVAC system for 1/3 of our building.
This building?
Yes.
It seems to get replaced every 5 years. I think we're on some, cycle with them where we support them when they don't have enough work or something.
I didn't, what's wrong with it?
It died. So this building.
Is it, what is it, forced air?
There's geothermal associated with it, but long and the short of it is this building is put into 3 segments and we lost a leg. So we got through the winter, but they finally installed a new system, so we will have heating and air conditioning coming summer.
Yeah, Karen.
Just a question for Bureau Veritas. So I see that there's 2 invoices here. They bill monthly.
Yes. When they sent their first email, it got relegated into a spam folder, so I didn't get it until they sent me, I believe it was the one that they sent in March saying, hey, we haven't gotten this one yet, what's going on? And then I found it in my spam folder. So that's why there's 2.
And then do they bill based on the amount of work that Matt is doing, or like hours, or how much
Yes.
bills?
It's hourly.
Hourly, okay.
What's their hourly rate?
Don't remember off the top of my head. We can get back to you.
Yeah.
air cleaning systems, was that put up for bid? That's an eye-popping amount of money.
So it was not because it's through CoStars, so we personally did not put it out for bid. But the way CoStars work is it's put out at the state level. So the
So
state,
CoStars is like the salt and that stuff.
yeah, if you think of it
Combines.
like
Quality
quad, they'll combine to get larger purchasing power. Everybody, from park equipment to trucks to security cameras to
Clothing.
kitchen equipment to clothing, everything is on CoStars. And because they've already gone through the process of bidding with the state, as long as you're working with a CoStars vendor, because they've already bid, you don't have to go through that sealed bid process in order to do that.
Correct.
Like pre-approval.
Sweet.
Yeah.
For them, okay, thanks.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Solicitors report.
Chance to catch up. The report is very thin for this month. It's been basically working on Mountain Manor matters. Orders have been coming in back to back. Decisions have been coming in back to back, and I've not had a whole lot of time to do much other than perhaps knee-jerk response to emails or things like that, but that's pretty much what February has been. And March too, by the way.
Yeah. All right.
Jacob? To answer your question, it's $65 an hour.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, engineering report.
Yeah, so like Jacob said, there is a bike park meeting tomorrow. And we'll discuss the results of the citizen survey, the key person interviews, and other outside agencies that we've discussed and offer a number of concept plans to the supervisors and the committee for discussion. And then the Green Lake Go project, they had training last week for the public works departments of the municipalities involved, and they're continuing to work through the punch list.
Right.
So,
Is there any ETA that's gonna go live?
no, there is not. I think they have 30 days to run data, which they have met. So they should be working on getting things coordinated with the
Okay.
system going on. I know that the grant was extended to June 30th, so
Right.
I would expect within that time frame things would be complete.
Yeah, I think we made it kind of clear. I think everybody made it kind of clear that this is it.
This is it, yeah. Yep. That's all I have,
Awesome.
unless there's questions.
We'll learn more tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Julia, anything?
Just a couple of quick things, more announcements-y than anything else. But just a reminder, spring cleanup, this year is April 30th through May 3rd. That is moving up. We're shifting the schedule to help accommodate Chris and pull and pay the new house. We will be doing a whole bunch of advertising about this. It'll be on Facebook. We're gonna have signs up around the county, so please mark your calendars. It's no longer the Wednesday after Mother's Day. It's April 30th through May 3rd this year.
What does that entail?
Spring cleanup is when everybody has the opportunity to bring stuff that you don't want anymore to the township and dispose of it for a fee. It goes from everything to couches to sofas to if you have an old TV that you no longer want.
Appliances are allowed?
Appliances are allowed. We'll have a final list of things that are not acceptable once we get the bids in, which should.
Cans.
Yeah, paint cans generally,
Yeah.
if they're wet, are not acceptable,
Correct.
stuff like that. If you demo a deck and try and bring construction debris, we will politely turn you away. But
It's not
we'll
for
have-
commercial.
It's not for commercial, it's for residences only, but we'll have more of that information coming online shortly. Next thing that I've got, announcement, spring leaf pickup is this year from April 14th to April 25th. We'll have it on the website by tomorrow, so please make sure that if you are on a township road, we can get all of that cleaned up. For your edification, I did contact Delaware Water Gap and they said that they're not doing any spring leaf pickup. But they did ask that when we contact them for their fall leaf pickup, that they give us a quote for what spring might cost if their board, commission wants to consider it.
Awesome.
And last but not least, I already mentioned spring cleanup, but the ground maintenance bid is also up for bid right now. And we should have those results soon-ish, and you'll see them on your upcoming meetings.
What's that for?
Grounds maintenance is for taking care of lawn mowing, and managing all of the flora in our parks and our.
Everywhere, okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right,
Is that a subcontractor or again, a paid position? The township.
That's a bid.
It's a sealed bid, so, we had a meeting where we had 3 different companies come out, walk through the township, show them how it works, and then because we always, that one's always been very, very close to the threshold. In the interest of not having to reset everything and redo it in case stuff does come over, we always treat it as a sealed bid process to be safe.
Thank you.
Environmental Advisory Council, Pat, Brad, Cole.
We met this past week, and worked on a list of what we wanted to be our priorities for the coming year. Each committee member had a vote and Alex has put the list together, and when we meet again on Wednesday. We're going to be meeting twice a month now, at the request of the committee. And so anyway, the priorities are put together, and then we'll have a list of the ones that had the most consensus
Sure.
of the parties. There was, during all that discussion, certainly some concern about the environmental committee not having any power to do it. Really, I mean, we can establish priorities, but to get things accomplished, we certainly have to work through others or figure out ways to make that
Well,
happen.
that's right, and I think that's why it's important to know that while we've created it, we don't really control everything it can do because the state statute more or less says it's advisory, not recommending even, but advisory. But I think that, you know, we can cooperate on education. There's a whole bunch of initiatives.
Well, education was one of the top, public education was one of the top choices. And as you might expect, another top choice was trying to keep the rural
Sure,
personality of this township. But also knowing that, you know, we have to balance both recreational and commercial and so forth.
yeah,
And we have finished a list of, or a committee did, Brett was on the committee and, can't think of his name right now.
Sam?
Yeah, yes. And we went over the old open space priorities list that had been done 2 or 3 years ago, knowing we don't have any money to buy anything. But we thought we should at least update it to know what was available or what
right,
was out there. And even though we can't do anything, should we ever get any money, at least we'll have it up to date, more up to date list.
thank you. Okay, I-80 and 611. Tara, you're back.
I am back. Do you want me to speak to the resolution now or? wait?
Yeah, that would be fine, because we'll vote on that after the, that'll be, it's in our consent agenda, so you can speak on it now and any other recent updates.
Okay, thank you. Tara Mezzanotte, your I-80 611, PennDOT NJDOT liaison. First, I want to let you know that PennDOT is starting to reach out to everybody that did express an interest to get notified of updates, meetings, documents related to the 611 project. That would be the rockfall mitigation project, the slope hazard project, as well as the replacement of the retaining wall along 611. So that's good news. They're starting to gear up and information should be forthcoming. So that's
PennDOT or
PennDOT.
NJDOT?
no, PennDOT. So, what I did is I created a easy way for everyone to remind NJDOT that we want to be on all lists at the same time that we're asking PennDOT to be on their newly established list for their new projects. And of course, PennDOT, who has been very responsive, communicated clearly that thank you, you'll be on the list, and crickets from NJDOT. But we did our part, so we can make sure everybody is informed. And thank you for Julia. I saw you were first one on that list. Okay, so you have a resolution on your agenda tonight, resolution number 593, listed as support for the Explore Act pilot program. So what this is, it says supporting the inclusion of the Delaware Water Gap Recreation Area local communities as a gateway community pilot program under the Explore Act. I'm gonna read what the Explore Act is, because I think it's important to know. So, the Expanding Public Lands Outdoor Recreational Experiences Act, Explore, signed into law on January 4th of 2025, seeks in part to foster and encourage responsible recreation on federal and state recreational lands and waters, with an emphasis on enhancements to recreation areas, long-distance bike and hike trails, high-volume non-federal public lands, and by mitigating negative visitor use impacts on infrastructure and local communities by, quote, providing financial or technical assistance to a gateway community under an existing program, and two, enter into public-private partnerships, cooperative agreements, memorandum of understandings, or similar agreements with a gateway community or business in gateway communities. We are a gateway community. This started, I want to say, on the Jersey side. Warren County grabbed a hold of it and ran with this. And what we did and what you're doing here is asking your federal representatives to petition the Department of Interior Secretary for us to be included. There's 10 within 12 months of this being enacted, there'll be 10 gateway communities chosen for this pilot program. I'm going to explain that in a moment. But that's what this is all about. We want to get in on the pilot program because it will, in general, at the least, it'll give us the opportunity to help the government establish a standardized way to measure visitors. You know, somebody traveling on 611, are they a visitor to the Gap? Click. Or are they somebody traveling on 611, somebody on 80? Are they a visitor to the Gap, or are they just somebody on 80? Well, does it take them to get into Dunfield Creek parking lot before they're considered a visitor? So we're gonna be a part of a seat at the table, hopefully, to be a part of the creation of this program that'll go nationwide. And it'll also give us some other wonderful opportunities. By having a seat at that table, we can express our needs and get them addressed. So in particular, we do know some of those impacts specific to Smithfield Beach, and thank you to Supervisor I'm gonna say your name wrong. Lovenheimer, I was about to make sure it was somebody else. Whereas overcrowding at the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, Smithfield Beach, along the Middle Delaware National Wild and Scenic River, interferes with access to Smithfield Beach Boat Launch, the McDade Trail, traffic flow on River Road, access to nearby trailheads, and overcrowding at parks owned by Smithfield Township, including Minnesota Park, River Edge Bike Park, and Marshall's Falls Park. And thank you for Julia for also helping to enhance that. Whereas overflow of visitors from Smithfield Beach into Smithfield Township parks has created enormous safety, security, and recreational issues requiring significant township resources, which have interfered with regular township operations and diverted funds. Smithfield Township has been forced to use significant township resources to combat loud music, barbecues, swimming, damage to riparian buffers, disregard for trail signage, and excessive trash, prompting the need for security, fees for out-of-town visitors, and further burdening the township with ongoing repairs and cleanup costs. In addition to Smithfield specifics, we mentioned impacts at Kittatinny Point, Dunfield Creek, overflowing onto Route 80. You know, they park on the shoulders and on the ramps, clogging up what we already have going on over there. We also mentioned Point of Gap, that there's no safe, it's not safe for people when they park in that parking lot. They're just, walking across 611 with no pedestrian paths or any signage to warn the travelers that this is going on, there's overflow of trash and all kinds of problems there that have to be addressed. We also mentioned that, overflowing at Mount Mincy flows down to 611, down into the borough, which also impacts 611 traffic for everybody, just like 80. And we then get into, the issues, of course, with our fire and rescue. Every time they're on the river, every time they're on the mountain, every time they're out rescuing somebody on one of these federal resources, they're leaving the area for which they volunteered to serve and taking away, response time. So on and on it goes, such as that. So what we get out of this is hopefully, as I said, we'll be a part of the process to at least quantify the number of visitors, quantify the impacts of those visitors on us now. Hopefully get a formal study as to, future impacts and identify, the needs that we have and hopefully, opportunities then. I see this as just an opportunity. By being involved in this now, you would think what would happen next
Yeah,
is mitigation,
right.
right? And we'll hopefully come up with ways of mitigating these things. And by us having the seat at the table, hopefully we'll be, have a seat on that bus also, a front seat for mitigation. So questions?
Yeah, just when, assuming we approve this resolution, a lot of whereas, a lot of background, appreciate it. Effectively, we're saying we'd like to be a part of the pilot program. Basically it, which is great. What are we gonna do with this resolution? Are we gonna send it to our federal legislators?
So on the Jersey side, you know, we work very closely with Congressman Kane historically anyway. You guys have a new representative.
President?
So, yes, so, Congressman Kane had a letter ready to go. The day that the county launched it, his letter went out.
Right.
So, that is for you to decide. This is your opportunity. I see this as your opportunity to develop your relationship with your congressional representative. It was different. I already had that relationship with Congressman Cartwright in his office. So I could just, you know, move it along and I wasn't interfering with your chance to develop that relationship. I personally feel it, better that it comes
I
from
think
you.
it makes sense to go to McCormick and Fetterman and Bresnahan with it.
Okay,
And frankly, the plan is kind of to send this to everybody, Rosemary Brown, Tara.
Yes.
of course,
So everyone
Yeah.
sees,
Yeah,
still on the same page.
but for sure, our federal legislators, okay.
And then what I do is I'll be on the back end following up as your representative.
Right, well, because the hope is that at some point, I don't know, but I haven't read the full extent of the Explore Act, but there would be some cooperation, hopefully, especially on the emergency services side, between, you know, elected officials from Pennsylvania. You know, if we could all get in the same room on that, you know, that would be pretty good.
Well, first we have to get selected, right, as a
Yes.
pilot program, and there's not like an application process.
So,
It's
no,
They
just-
have to lobby for us,
It's a
or,
lobbying thing.
Yeah, we're jumping it. Yeah,
Okay.
we're jumping it, trying to get a front row seat on top of that ticket. And to your point. You know, there was my image of Horton Hears a Who. You know, we're the who's in Whoville because everything's watered down because we're three congressional districts, we're 2 different states, we're 3 different counties. You know, your impacts, what I just read on Smithfield Beach, Knowlton has something, Hardwick has something, Upper Mount Bethel has something, Portland has something. You know, we're just one little voice in there. So wouldn't it be amazing if for the first time this becomes a mechanism
Yeah.
for us to be considered?
Well,
The
assuming we're all-
unit we are.
We're all advocating for the same, you know,
Yeah.
request,
Yes,
then the
yes.
benefit there is then you have multiple
right,
congressmen.
because if there was some sort of like gateway
Same question.
communities committee or something
Exactly.
more or less like that for planning purposes, that would be great, especially because with the semi-quincentennial next year, there's expected to be a ton of visitorship and a lot of other big events that have nothing to do with it, but are happening for some reason, like the same month or two. So.
Very good.
Thanks.
Christie, do you have a question?
When will public meetings be held for that?
No idea. If this is, there's,
If they get selected.
yeah,
And it might, it's not.
I don't even think they
It's not
would
even
have.
guaranteed a penny, right?
Oh, yes, no cost. So
Yeah.
it specifies, using the fees available to the Secretary of the
Yeah,
Interior.
it's like,
So this is federal budget.
Right.
So that, thank you for mentioning
Yeah,
that. And
there's
we
no
also
cost.
mention in here that we don't support eminent domain and condemnation.
Mhm.
So let's say they come out with recommendations for X, Y, Z, Gateway Community Firehouse. We certainly don't want that taking up somebody's private property
Right.
because they have the opportunity to do so. We've been scarred by that enough.
yeah,
So I don't think they would, this is
Right,
new.
right.
So there's nothing I read about anything like that.
And then my second question is, the resolution talks about mitigation. And has our little committee, our community, do we have a list of recommendations for mitigation, or we're just using that word and not going any farther?
It may, it's, careful in the language, it may create opportunities to mitigate.
Right,
That's, what that says is, we're hopeful that that will come to be, but there's nothing, nobody has ideas.
Right, well, the program hasn't really
Yes.
started.
They wouldn't even be able
it may
to,
not even start.
well, wouldn't it be, I think we're uniquely positioned because of what we're
Yeah.
talking about to create the national program that
Right.
looks at these kind of things.
so at some point, will our community, our group be the ones presenting those ideas for mitigation?
would hope.
Or is the.
You mean
idea
after we're a
to
pilot?
Do as we're told?
Oh, no, I think the objective of this, I
It's to
think,
become a pilot.
is to
Right.
become the
It's
pilot.
the only,
Right.
right.
Because I believe we would want the seat at the table to create that
Absolutely.
to create that framework.
Absolutely.
And uniquely positioned to do so, so that when this gets rolled out to in 5 years upon completion, maybe it gets rolled out to others, we've helped design it.
Right,
So.
Somewhat.
So that, it answers my question, but it also brings me to the point where maybe we wanna have some ideas about how to mitigate, so that when it comes time, these things take time to formulate, so is that on the table and?
I'm telling
Anywhere?
myself to visit every town to get these resolutions passed when it comes to the point of, that's a wonderful idea, and I'm sure that would be.
I mean, it's gonna be incumbent upon the municipal leaders in each place to do that. I mean, most of us have plans or means of mitigating while it's ongoing, whether or not the federal government's going to help us. We hope.
But it'll be fun to think about what if you did have a budget to
Right.
mitigate
For
the
sure.
way that you would love to do it
Yeah.
and see would be most efficient and effective for your
I mean,
municipality.
that's sort of the idea of running a pilot,
Yeah.
is to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's why you're doing these pilots, right?
We count on you? You have ideas? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, supervisors, anything you wanna note?
Just two things, I wanna make sure, I think it was on the website or somewhere, maybe it was Facebook, where it's still listed EAC is meeting once a month. You might wanna just make sure, I know the calendar is updated, but somewhere where it just says meets first Tuesday, whatever, so just update that.
Yeah,
I don't know if the time is on there either on that page.
I'm not sure.
Might want to double check that.
And then, just to let you guys know, I reached out to, Representative Tara Probst and Senator Rosemary Brown related to the Welcome Center. As Alex and I have been talking about bathrooms at Minnesink, and obviously the Welcome Center's been closed forever again, and who knows why, and, but just with concern that at a bare minimum, it would be nice to have parking available to avoid people keep coming through and turning around at Minnesink or elsewhere, and ideally to have porta potties as well. And both representatives and Senator reached out to PennDOT, and we did get a response that I guess they tried to do that when they first shut it down,
Yeah.
and there was vandalized. I don't really care. But what the good news is that their plan is to reopen on Memorial Day. So they said pending weather and all that sort of stuff, but I wanted to let you know that PennDOT says the Welcome Center is gonna open up again. Or after Memorial Day or right about Memorial Day, so I think that relieves my personal concerns.
Yeah.
About toilets and stuff, and actually in conversation with both offices agreed that if it wasn't gonna be Memorial Day, that we did want them to relook at opening up parking and
Right.
porta potties again until it is open, so hopefully they'll listen.
Awesome. Robert?
Nothing.
I just wanted to thank our first responders for their responses to the brush fires that we've had recently, as it's been so dry. Fortunately, we got rain, but both the one at Mount Nebo and the one on the LTS building, the 209, I thought they were super quick, so I just wanted to shout them out. Okay. We don't have any old business this evening. On the consent agenda, we have the consideration to approve the special event permit for the Rotary Club in Smithfield's July 4th block party, as they traditionally do. Approve the 2025 HVAC maintenance contract with Superheat. And then the consideration to adopt resolution 593, the support for the Explore Act pilot program. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Bonham, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Albert, questions?
The superheat.
Can you confirm that the special event permit is for Rotary Club of the Smithfields and not Rotary of the Poconos? Because I go to the meetings every week and I haven't heard anything about a block party.
This is actually, that's wrong, it's not Rotary Club. This is the
They
block
just submit
party.
it through that email? That might have been.
It doesn't say Rotary anywhere on the application. This is every year Shawnee, they close down
Yeah,
Right, yeah,
Minnesink Avenue from,
the village,
it's the village party. I don't think it's Rotary that puts it on.
no.
It hasn't been before, unless they're doing it now.
So who puts it on?
They've
The local.
it's the neighborhood association.
been doing so since I moved here.
Yeah. No, I was just listed erroneously, but it's no different than any
The
year.
special permit is
past.
just Katerina is the applicant.
Yeah.
It's an individual that's put the applicant.
Who
Yeah,
is it?
Katerina
but Jen,
Litchens, she lives on River Road. The superheat, that's an annual one. That's their maintenance of this new system.
New system.
It's about right.
yeah,
Motion on the table.
alright. On favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next is consideration to adopt resolution number 594, appointments to the Uniform Construction Code Board of Appeals. This came up in a staff meeting at the township. Essentially, the last time this was touched was 21 years ago when they were appointed, when the township adopted the Uniform Construction Code and set out the process for the UCC appeals. We haven't really had any issues in the time since. I did confirm with 3 of those people that they're in fact interested, although it didn't meet. The last 2 I reached out to, didn't hear back from, but they're already on the board. And they serve at will, so we just staggered the 5-year terms. That way. We
So
have continuity. This is
I'll
a
make a
building
motion,
code.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 594 first.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Albert, second.
So this is for if someone wants to appeal that the building code was done incorrectly.
Yes,
Versus, I understand the zoning hearing board, that makes
Correct.
more sense.
and it's essentially the same process. The rules are much more defined because it's.
Yeah, because the code is black and
Yes.
white.
So the only thing that, is of note compared to other committees or commissions that we would appoint. Is that if we can't find enough people in the township, because the resolution that created it. Made sure that it was at least 5, but potentially up to 7 people, so you can have alternates or whatever. Is if you can't find enough people in your township at a certain period of time, you can appoint somebody that is outside of the township. Regardless, they have to be an expert of some sort in construction or the
The
trades.
code.
Yes.
So when's the last time this group had to meet?
I don't think it ever met because I asked Nick Fredericks when I talked to him and he said, yes, I remember being on it, we didn't meet. Same thing with Norm Fish, when I talked to him, Allison Road replaces someone else that could not continue due to their health. And then I have Dave McGarry and Bob Markey who were both on it from the original inception. One of the other folks that was on, Andy Shakaitis, was an alternate and couldn't reach him either.
The board only meets if someone appeals a
Right.
uniform construction code ruling.
Right,
Seems,
So if no one's
It's
ever
not that
appealed a
common.
uniform construction code ruling, there would be no reason for that board
Correct.
to meet.
I expect them not to meet.
I can tell you in Wing Gap, I've never had them meet, and in Upper Mount Bethel Township, maybe once in 26 years.
Yeah.
Because most people don't challenge uniform construction code when the code says you have to have 18 inches above the floor, whatever, it's gotta be 18 inches above the
Right,
floor.
you need like an extremely compelling case,
okay.
so. Any other? All in favor? Aye. Next is the consideration of the match commitment letter regarding the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau grant. Alex wrote that grant for us. I worked with him on that. This includes a couple of key things, which are signage at Minnesink waterfront and the park rule signs, 9 of those at each of the parks, or not 9 at each, but for each of the parks in the various existing places that they're at. And then things to raise the beds, landscaping, topsoil. This is included in our capital improvements budget. And the match is 10,000, so we would be receiving 10,000. It's a 1-to-1 in-kind match of 40 hours of labor that we have at the township of 1,200. So, and that is from their, what is it, the tourism impact grant?
Yeah.
So,
Motion to approve.
motion by Mr. Levenheim. We hear a second.
One second.
Second, Mr. Albert, questions?
This is an annual one,
Yes, it's their mini grant.
the mini grants.
Yeah.
Cause there was one that we talked about briefly, Julia, about fixing the toilets at Menacing.
Okay, is that the T-Mobile one?
Yeah, there's a T-Mobile one and there's another one we're looking at. Alex met with, a plumber, 3 hours ago, roughly.
Okay,
To get a rough estimate, they do have to do a little bit of work, but it's actually looking like the estimate might come in far under anything that's actually worth pursuing a grant for. So
okay,
we've got our fingers crossed, but we'll have more information once they have a little bit more time to inspect that issue and find out what really the problem is.
Awesome.
This is a mini sink.
Yes,
We ever looked into connecting that to the Manawalamek sewer line that goes right past mini sink on River Road?
I don't believe so, that we've ever.
we didn't
pursued that, but
oversee
that
it
would
It
be-
goes
before,
all the way
so
to the visitors center.
Yeah, something we can mention.
we should look at this cost at the same time,
Yeah, sounds good.
cause that might be worth a grant. I can combine them,
Right,
so that's a little bit off topic.
no, it's all good. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, finally, we have the consideration for conditional approval of the Franklin Hill Manor subdivision. Who here wants to talk about that? I know we've got, I think it's 10 waivers, there might be. Plus or minus 7, okay.
How's everyone doing? I'm Ty Mackis with JCE. Here for our minor subdivision on Franklin Hill Road. I believe you're all familiar with the site, if not, I have some.
Yeah.
Plan.
That's this one, I think.
Yeah, I think we're down to the last final item, agreements, financial guarantees, and, just waiting on approval of the sewage planning module, I believe that DEP. And then I have some waiver requests to act on before requesting the conditional approval to them.
And I have in my hand an agreement for conditional plan approval forms,
Perfect,
which I'll review, provided the SALDO waivers are approved and
right,
because if that's the case, then we can move on to that item and review the conditions.
Yep.
See if, they will be approved and signed, and then you can, move on.
And to my knowledge, all of the waivers were recommended for approval by the planning commission. So why don't you identify what section it's from, and then we'll vote on them individually, and then we will go for the final.
And if you would, Mr. Chair, the, Township Engineer Review Letter of December 12, 2024 is in your packet near the
Yep.
back. And if you flip over to page 2, subdivision land development, you can begin to see where it says
Yeah,
Planning Commission recommended waiver, so we can follow along as, Mr. Meckes goes through that, so.
perfect.
The first one's, section 22-601. Requires separate preliminary and final plan. Submissions, we don't anticipate any major changes, I think that's pretty straightforward one. We'd like to combine the two.
And the board should be aware that in the past, when there has been a request for this waiver, the township engineer, along with myself also, believe that if the filing of a final plan isn't gonna change much of anything
Yeah.
from the preliminary plan, just do it at one time and get it done, so you don't have double engineering costs,
Yeah.
double filing
Yeah.
costs. or
Not a
something.
problem.
So.
Alright.
We take them as they come?
Yes,
Okay, so we need a motion right now?
yep,
Motion to approve the waiver request to combine final and preliminary plans.
from section 22-601.
But yeah, what you said.
Alright, motion by Mr. Albert, right here, second, Mr. Levenheim, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Section 22-603 V15 is a request for a waiver from submitting a lighting plan. Kind of out in the sticks here, didn't make sense to have lighting along, Franklin Hill Road.
So moved, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Levenheim, questions?
Yeah, I just wanna, sorry, I'm a lighting guy. I don't like lights, so I just wanna make sure. So no, this is just a subdivision, right?
Right.
No, it's land development, there are three.
There is land.
Three homes.
The 3 homes, right, okay. But they're homes, it's not commercial.
Correct.
I'm just looking, attached garages. Okay,
Yes.
so not detached garages that might have these giant lights, okay?
Seeing you had your hand.
It was about the lighting, I just wanted to clarify, you said we're gonna have lights.
No.
Got it,
No lighting plan. that's
right,
being
right,
submitted,
because,
yeah, Cause it's,
understood, just wanted to be sure I heard correctly, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next one, section 22-1015.1. That's for requiring sidewalks, we requested a waiver from that. Same concept, it's a rural area.
Yeah.
Is this where the planning commission recommended approval with an easement? Or was this the
I
other
think
one?
that was.
That was Widmer.
Okay, thank you, sorry about that.
Yeah, this, yeah,
Yeah, even Michael's has. Okay,
well, yeah, well, I'll make a motion to approve, was it already motion?
Go ahead.
A motion to approve.
Go ahead.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Albert,
I would-
second Mr. Levenheim.
I will just say, I'm also the sidewalk, I'm like lights and sidewalks. But I'm usually thinking about that when it comes to like a large development,
Right.
and I'm like, there should be sidewalks, cause we have developments.
Here would
In
be
this township
sidewalks.
where we should have, but this is 3 properties and 3 houses, no, and I understand.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's, I don't wanna jump around here, but there's 3 sections that all are associated with easements around the stormwater facilities.
Yeah, you can take it as one.
4 and 6, so section 22-1023.5. Section 22-1301.5.b. And section 26-233. .2.b 19.
These are all the shade trees and,
No, 8.
Number 8.
Number 4 and 6 are, oh, you don't have the list in front of you, sorry.
I have the
The review letter.
Yeah, we have to
Review
review
letter.
letter. Yeah.
I can give you these quick, just to follow it on that. Number 4 and 6 all have to do with the. I think there's 3.
Nice.
We did a blanket easement on this plan. So rather than putting a 20-foot easement around each of the stormwater facilities, we just did a blanket easement, so the township personnel would be authorized to access the property anywhere they see fit to inspect.
Great.
And the engineers indicated he has no objection to that.
Yeah, just keep getting a larger easement than is required, yeah. Okay,
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
so moved.
Motion, Mr. Albert.
Second.
Second, Mr. Levenheim, questions?
It should be clear, I said a motion to approve the waiver.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5 on my list there is section 22-1101.1.f.2E1. This is the requirement for 1 shade tree and 3 shrubs for every 30 linear feet of proposed stormwater management berm. We did provide that where the trees would be cleared. The request is a modification for the areas that will remain wooded. It just didn't make sense to
Yeah.
put trees and shrubs that are guarded by
Yeah,
existing wood,
that
so.
makes sense. All right, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion myself, second, Mr. Levenheim, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last one is section 26-225-A.4. This is a waiver request from using the NRCS curve number equation. Due to the scale of facilities, it's just, we use a different method of calculating our stormwater. It's accepted by the conservation district. We kind of just tag team the two and run it through the township. I think that's pretty standard.
Motion on that,
So moved. Motion to approve the waiver.
second by Vader, I'll second by myself, questions?
Missy, that's fine, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I-
With no objection, says here, the planning commission had no objection.
Yep.
Okay,
And if there's no other,
well, we gotta vote on it.
Yeah.
our
Oh, on the waiver, I have a separate.
Yeah, all right, all
Yeah, I
in
have
favor?
a separate question too.
Aye.
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 Okay,
Okay. There also in our last letter from December, you had a waiver request from submitting a landscape plan.
That would be my question.
And the planning commission did recommend approval of that.
there's no on the line.
If you have Mr. Professor letter,
yeah, number 3.
number 3.
No, I don't even have the copy of that. I just have to
Okay.
read it off, if you know.
Yes.
I don't know why that one didn't make this. 22, number 2.
Mhm.
22-603.1.G.14. And 1101, I'm saying.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's the same rationale you just gave from
yeah,
Okay.
planting trees where there's a forest, doesn't make sense.
exactly.
Right.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on that.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim, do I hear a second?
Second,
Second, Mr. Albert, what?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to note that there had been or have been over the course of this, some questions about stormwater management by residents on Manor Drive. And I actually went out there with the engineer, John Trustler, walked the property during let's say a very severe rainstorm.
Right.
And our conclusion was everything was as it should be and the drainage was adequate.
There was some concern on the original project where Albert Lane was gonna be impacted somehow.
Right,
And that caused residents to come out and also be concerned about that, but this new plan has reduced the number of residential dwellings and indicates that Albert Lane is not gonna be impacted in any way.
right.
So that being said, I have a conditional approval form if you want me to review this with this young man.
Go ahead and then I'll do the final motion on that.
Okay. All right, I have here conditions. You tell me if you're good with these conditions, because then I'm gonna ask you to sign your name here on this, so we have it for our file. We need planning module approval and exemption. Compliance with any outstanding conditions on the township engineer letter of December 12, 2024. That there be an improvements agreement with security acceptable to the township engineer and township solicitor. That if any of those improvements are going to be made public, that there be a maintenance agreement with security acceptable to the township engineer and solicitor. Park recreation, open space fees in lieu. Monuments, pins, markers to be set in the field and certified in writing by the applicant presenting professional. Saldo waivers to be noted on the plan. And plan to be signed and plan to be notarized. So do you have any problem with those conditions? Let me ask the board here for this, with respect to park recreation, open space, fees. In lieu, how many lots are we saying? 1 lot, 2 lots, 3 lots?
3 lots, yeah.
The 3 lot, I
Yeah.
believe it's a 3 lot.
Well, that's a
subdivision.
fee
Am I
schedule.
wrong with that, is that correct? Okay, so I'm gonna put 3 here. Okay, and I'm going to. Your permission, approach you here, give you this form, have you look at it. Here it says what I just said, and then so sign on the bottom, give it back to me, and then I'll send you a copy in the mail. It won't be today, but you know, it's in the day.
Here's one note for you guys, as you've mentioned it before, but the SPN is still pending. It is an outside approval from DEP, so we're waiting on that, just so. everybody's-
So approval will be conditioned on that.
Yeah,
So I have planning module approval or exemption.
yeah.
It's right at the very top, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have in front of me, Mr. Chair, an agreement for conditional plan approval that has been signed by the very famous Ty Meckes with respect to this matter. And he, as the applicant's planning professional, has authority to sign this form.
Right.
And with those conditions agreed to, the board is in a position to take official action in this matter.
I'll entertain a motion on the conditional approval form.
Second.
No.
I'll make, Robert makes the motion, I'll
Yeah.
second.
Robert made the motion. Second, Mr. Albert. Final question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Okay,
what I
thank you.
will also do, Mr. Meck, is I'll send you a saldo waiver form that goes through the waivers that you will also sign off on. I couldn't do that before tonight because I didn't know if the waiver would be granted. Now that I know they'll be granted, I'll prepare the form and email it to you, just sign off, just like you did with this.
Sounds good.
Okay?
It's been great getting to
Thank
know
you.
you over these last 4 years. Okay,
Okay?
all right. Any public comment? Right.
I'm curious, Mr. Sidewalk. We've been allowing a lot of waivers for sidewalks. When will we start building sidewalks?
I mean, my feeling is a solid project like this, it doesn't make sense. I mean, because it's 3 lots and it's in the middle of the woods. So when you're talking about something, I mean, I think what would be important is Gateway has sidewalks. If you're gonna have a large PRD, a large development that's gonna go in and you're building 100 homes, you need to have sidewalks. If you're gonna be on 209, abutting other sidewalks or where more are gonna be there, my view is there should be sidewalks, and that's why the ordinance is
Yeah.
there.
A slightly more definitive answer. But basically, we secured a bunch of easements for development across that corridor. So at the time that we have the funds to do it, which we've seen successful LSA applications, I think Middle Smithfield has done that in the past, or multimodal grants, they've been able to complete significant strides of sidewalks. So at that point, but we're not going to do it until we have a critical mass, because we don't want to deteriorate before we get.
We're referencing a project that was approved, that was a barn, a garage on 209.
And that's what I'm referencing to, the
Yeah.
Widmer, we got the easement for that, so at such time that.
There's no. I mean, it's nice to have that in there as a requirement. But it is something that's waivable, so in this example, it's was a 40-foot stretch, maybe less, on 209 with no sidewalks anywhere, but we got an easement so that if we wanted to put a sidewalk, we can.
My experience. Yeah,
I'm sorry,
please.
So, because I'm also an advocate for sidewalks and get frustrated when you're waived all the time, and I understand this particular one maybe in the woods, and I trust your judgment that, it doesn't need it right now, but
And I think getting the easements is a great idea, except that I believe, I get what you're saying, that you wanna do it in a straight shot, you know, several properties that are kind of lined up and do it. I don't buy the argument that, well, there's not one on this side or on this side, so it would be, you know, just this property. I mean, I think it's fine, just go ahead and do it, because am I wrong? Doesn't the developer pay for it if they do it at the time you bring
Correct.
approval versus if you come in later and it's an easement, then the township pays for it?
Or you get a
Is that
grant.
correct?
Right, well, there's the grant, but then it also comes the question of maintenance. So when it's common space, like it's Smithfield Gateway, for example, it's part of what they call, you know, their condominium agreement. So the developer and whoever takes assignment of that responsibility will do that forever. That won't ever be our responsibility. But if we do it just blanket along an area, it could be ours.
So
So
like 209, that could be our requirement to then have Chris go out with the snow plow and plow 40 feet of sidewalk that's never been used. So you don't have someone to do that unless it's a part of, we want it, I mean, my view is, I want it in the ordinance so that it gets raised and it can be required.
It just seems somewhat subjective, and I get all your arguments, but I just wanna agree with Brett that I think we should start requiring them sometimes.
I think so too.
Sometimes.
I'm a fan of sidewalks too, I mean, especially for a large development, I think we need to be there.
Franklin Hill Road in particular is pedestrian hostile. And any sidewalk there will help someone who might even think about walking on Franklin Hill Road. And I heard.
But this would have been inside the current property,
Right,
like it
Just for those four.
to address the other, it doesn't really make.
Right, it wouldn't have been a public improvement.
and also there's I recall you waived when Westlaw was in regarding 3 Point Gardens.
Mhm.
There was also a waiver offered there, but that is on Franklin Hill Road and it's just down the street from the school.
Mhm.
And if kids wanna walk home from school, they can't walk.
They don't allow elementary students to walk home from school, aside
That's a
from,
shame.
It is a shame, I
That's a
agree,
shame.
they're not allowed.
they can, like in East Stroudsburg Borough,
High
where,
school
where,
kids can.
you know, they are, correct.
And I proposed, which you guys agreed with, putting sidewalks in around the school so kids could potentially walk home. And actually on that point, I'd like to piggyback on Tara's discussion. This is a great opportunity for us as a township to organize our thoughts about the future. And personally, I'd like, as a resident, I'd like to be able to ask each one of the supervisors in due time what their medium-term vision is for our townships, very as
Sure.
detailed as possible. If you take your dad, when they graduate from college, if you want to drive their fiancés around the neighborhood, what do you project seeing in 20 years? And I would ask Jacob, who is younger in that equation, and Robert, who's had a good history, how you envision this township, if you go road by road and facility by facility, how do you envision this township growing? And something you could share with the public, so we have an idea of where you're, you know, how we can participate and help in that regard, because I'm not seeing any forward planning. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I would respectfully disagree. The biggest thing that we did was when we combined the different commercial corridors into one zone, and they have a lot of that futuristic planning. The reality is, we don't want wide scale development outside the commercial corridors. You know, we want to preserve that open space. So build up 209, build up 447, but don't build up Franklin Hill Road, don't build up you know, River Road, for example. Like there's different areas where you want to keep that character. And you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why we're doing some of these waivers is because they are in these rural areas, which would just kind of create sprawl. And I don't really, honestly, I have dangerously walked Franklin Hill Road, all the way back to like Manor Drive, you know, from Deerfield to Manor. I don't know that sidewalks over there is going to be feasible. I think that, along other corridors, it would be, and I would like to see, you know, more biking friendly type of, you know, locations, but again, that's super hard, an area where people travel extremely quickly in an unsafe way that, you know, without a local police force, we just can't, you know, make people be better.
Well, the sidewalk is a perfect issue. And also in my experience, when there's a sidewalk in the middle of nowhere, as this developer might have.
I agree that, with Jacob about rural areas keeping it rural, but there's another factor here that we should be aware of, and that is sidewalks tend to cut down speed on the roads because people look at it as suddenly it's a populated area.
Yes, agreed. And there's a snowball effect. When one landowner, when you see a sidewalk, you wonder, well, why doesn't it continue? And so going forward, if there are little patches of sidewalks, it'll encourage further development. I've seen that in other cities that I've lived in, where there's a cool sidewalk and that's great. And then people say, well, why don't, you know, and so there's a snowball effect.
That generally makes sense.
Projecting forward, and I might ask you, in the short term coming forward, I might ask you each individually as official, for your official view on planning in the medium term, what you envision this township looking like in 20 years. Because we don't have any other guidance that I'm seeing, to help plan for medium term.
I mean, the guidance is the zoning. You know,
It's also the way you supervise individual developments, individual, housing plans.
There's another big factor, which is cost. Middle Smithfield has been trying as long as I can remember to get a grant to put sidewalks along 209. It hasn't happened yet.
I think they're about to.
Yeah. So I think vision, pardon the use of the word vision, but I think some idea how you see the township in 20 years and can share that will help us coalesce around your ideas. It'll help us help you. So I will in the coming short term ask each one of you individually, not to jump on you. So you can think about what you might project. And I think it'll help us all focus. You got, you know, intention is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Christine.
In response to Brett's question about 20-year vision, I believe what he's referencing is what is known as a comprehensive plan, which is a long-term document typically created with public input. And the state recommends that it be done once every 10 years. Smithfield Township has not updated theirs since 2001.
Yeah. And it's been discussed many times, and the planning commission has been very vocal about the fact, and this is important, it holds zero legal
Correct.
ground. So,
Absolutely.
and then the challenge, of course, is that if another person is elected and they don't believe that, they have no requirement to follow it. So
Correct.
there is
no-
the question that's been raised is, do you want to spend tens of thousands of dollars?
80,000.
Because if you want a real study that's really good, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. We can see from the study we just did on the park that I'm not even sure we have statistical significance. And so how much,
What
Can
did
you-
that cost?
We have a grant for the master site plan development at River's Edge for $50,000.
So it seems
so one park,
seems
50,000.
plausible to me that there would be lots of.
But we're gonna be able to
Comprehensive
use, but we're going to be.
We
able
can
to
use that to get
To
money.
get money. The comprehensive plan, I mean, the state, it's really nice. It's like one of those things where it's like, yes, it's allowed, but also here's 100 reasons why it doesn't really matter. And that's what the NPC says. It's like,
I personally like I mean, I run many strategic plans where I ran a massive one for United Way when I worked for them, or run for other nonprofits. We love strategic plans. They're useful to get money as well when you're going after grants. I think it's useful in a sense of if you have maybe someone running that says, I buy in 100% to the comprehensive plan, makes it easy and fast to say that. But I don't know, honestly, I don't know how useful it actually is. So that's my concern.
I would recommend that I think it's online, look at the Middle Smithfield comprehensive plan and see if there's anything in there that really relates to the reality of the situation or has accomplished anything.
The other thing I want to say on this, I do think the county plan
yes,
is also very important and an important tie in, because I also tend to feel when we talk about sort of overall economic changes, it's too small a township level.
Correct.
And it's hard to say, we're gonna be this little island township where something amazing is gonna happen, and then next door is not gonna be like that. You really have to play with all the partners, and I think giving input into the county plan and saying how that county plan can, how we can be a part of that and influence that, I think that's, from my view, is as important, because it's gonna be easier to achieve that plan when you're looking at a slightly larger geographic region.
And that's what we've done too with our participation in the Eastern Monroe Active Transportation Plan and other regional plans that are not, you know, regional planning in the sense of a comprehensive plan, but regional on a specific topic has been important.
So sounds to me like you're saying fuck off.
Well, one.
Hey,
one thing
come on,
that-
that's not what we're saying.
No.
You can interpret it how you like, but I think that's frankly disrespectful to the work that we put in here. So,
The Monroe County.
Hold on, sorry.
go ahead, Tara. That'll come to you, Gene.
Okay, one thing about the Monroe County plan is that they're really broad, and they, in many instances there, they say, this is kind of what we want, but we're leaving it up to the township to fulfill
Sure.
what we
Yeah,
want
so-
to do. And they also refer to that when they look at the plans that we submit, you know, for approval. And I think everyone that I've read says this coincides with, you know, the Monroe County Comprehensive Plan, so
Yes.
they are using it. And the 2001 plan seems still relevant, you know, like
It is.
some of the things, like the population is different and the density is different, but the vision of that seems still relevant.
Absolutely, and that's why we're not, you know, at this point going to undertake an effort that's $50,000 to $100,000 just to say, this is pretty good, except we have a little bit more mixed use now. But when you look at the amount that the township spent on the economic development zone, that was quite a bit, and that
$40,000.
predated me. I came in at the tail end, and when they seemingly were almost ready to scrap it, but you know, that's important because it talks about the type of aesthetic that we want along those commercial corridors. It doesn't, you know, disturb the residential corridors or the industrial areas. How are you, Hannah?
Yeah, so I had put a right to know request in, I don't know, a month or so ago, and Julia, you know, did respond to me regarding basically what justified the move from having an in-house zoning person to having like a, you know, a contracted service company that you guys are utilizing. So based on those invoices, and if it's $65 an hour, based on what the former zoning officer is getting paid, it's about $32.50 an hour. Even that's unloaded. So even if you load it based on average payroll taxes, average cost of, you know, let's say family coverage insurance, because it's going to be the most expensive, pension contribution, you're looking at about $45 an hour. So I'm just wondering what that $20 difference, what justified that, because the 65 seems quite high for a position you were paying about $33 an hour for previously when it was in-house.
I mean, I think the quality of the service that we're getting is important, and the fact that there are multiple people that can be working on it at a given time. They're doing more than you would
Yeah.
normally expect.
But the quality of service could have changed had you guys intervened and held the person accountable if they weren't doing their job.
Not gonna get into personnel.
I'm not asking you to. You guys pull the HR card on me every time I bring something up. I'm not asking you to.
We don't have to answer you.
I'm asking a question.
What was that?
No, this is public comment. We don't actually have to engage at all.
It's fine, but what
I want to make sure everyone's aware. If you go to other meetings, it's public comment. You can talk for 3 minutes. We're not gonna say anything. It's our choice to answer and try to be as transparent as possible.
that's fine, but I would like the public to know.
We should, and we do. That's what
Yeah,
I'm just saying. So on this issue, we don't talk about HR issues in public.
You guys know I work in HR.
So-
Can you pull that part?
No, I mean, I'll take this because I pushed really hard for this, because I like the ability, and I'll throw it out there. I like the ability for us to have a contracted 1099 service for this particular service, because it's been easier with our our base engineering, it's easier with legal, we could hire an in-house counsel if we wanted to, we could hire an in-house engineer if we wanted to, we don't.
Right.
But we have had forever an in-house zoning officer, and it didn't work for whatever reason, and you can point fingers and you can say, so-and-so didn't do their job, they didn't do that, I'll do a better job, whatever, that's what I hear. But the reality is, I pushed hard because it was gonna be fast, it was gonna be quick, and we can get out of it in 30 days, which from the staff we've had to get change over here is not that easy and requires talking to council and requires
Correct.
going through a lot of process. So yes, and there's still a possibility that on January 1st next year, we're gonna hire somebody. But right now, this is what we're gonna do. And by the way, we already have more than one person that's worked on some things. I've had conversations with multiple people at Bureau Veritas and gotten information. So I do think it's worth
They've been
More.
incredibly effective. In
for the
short
time and
we've
now
had
it's
them.
back.
Okay, so my only thing was to let the public know that we're paying, about $20 more an hour for a person who is only here in the office, although I've been told that they're working, outside of the office as well on Smithfield Township matters, about $20 more an hour. But I'm not gonna get into HR stuff, okay? Again, you guys pull that card on me every time. I just wanted to make people aware of the dollars and cents here. And it seems that you guys feel to avoid the HR headaches, to avoid turnover headaches and legal issues and personnel issues that can come up.
That can cost more than $20 an hour at the
Okay,
end of the day.
but they can. But if you're holding somebody accountable and doing performance improvement plans and all those things, it doesn't have to get to that point. So anything can happen.
Correct.
But in the end, in the interim, we're paying $20 more an hour for somebody who's here 1 day a week, is what I want to make known. And that's all. I don't need any questions answered. It's just a fact.
Thanks for your comment.
Peripherally, I do need to step in here. I'm going to reiterate what I said last time, that, any disagreements, not that you did disagree with my response for the right to know. But anything through that should go through Open Up Records office. And secondly, just to clarify, per Donahue v. Hazelton Area School District, the right to know is not the proper venue to demand anyone to provide proof against accusations. So I simply gave you the documents. I didn't provide any proof or defense of anything because that's not how the right to know law works. That is something that I learned while I was researching this one, so I wanted to make the board aware of that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. Marguerite.
I have a couple of comments. This past week, we've had big issues with people trespassing, which I've called and left several messages that have not been returned.
I have spoken to Ron about that, and he will be reaching out to your lawyer, I believe, by the end of the week or early next week.
Okay, but that wasn't, I called to tell the township that we had people trespassing. We've had people walking through the properties. We've had people, oh, we're in the park, they walk down around through. I've had people on e-bikes and vans riding through down there. And this just started happening. We have people coming down, parking in front of our house from out of state. And we didn't have any of this issue until the township decided to encumber our whole housing development or where we live down there on your mapping. That needs to be corrected.
What mapping are you referring to?
The one that's online. The one that you look at under the GIS mapping that encircles our houses.
I don't think we ever had anything to do with putting a GIS
Okay.
map up.
Somebody had something to do with it.
I
I've
think it's the
addressed
county.
it since last March. Now we have people, literally people walking through all hours, all times of the day and night. We've never had this issue. Our no trespassing signs are ripped down from the road, everything.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we had anything to do with what's on the GIS map. I was just as surprised as anyone else when someone called me and said, it's on the map. Never knew it.
Didn't we have extensive conversation, Julian, with
The property.
Just
assessment
property
or?
lines.
The GIS mapping.
Yeah.
The GIS mapping Marguerite, if you don't mind, if we could have an offline conversation, what I'm looking at on this map that I'm looking at right now isn't making sense with what you're saying, so I'd love to better understand.
I gave you guys pictures. I brought
Yeah,
pictures
I
to the
remember,
meetings.
we talked about that, and there was that whole thing where we contacted the county and said, hey, this is.
Nothing's been corrected.
Okay, I do know that that is not the case because originally the private road that goes between everything was demonstrated initially to be on the township property, and that was corrected and removed. I'm looking at it right now. It doesn't say we own that parcel.
It doesn't say on which parcel.
The road between all of your houses. So like, if we could talk a little bit more to help me understand what you're referencing specifically. I do see a parcel down here that's owned by the United States of America.
Right, which is the
that-
Park Service.
Yeah, and is that the piece that you're referring to?
They're saying, they're coming down, they're saying they're looking for the park, they're looking for the trails, they're parking in front of people's homes, we have groups of people walking, groups of people with bikes, e-bikes.
I have pictures of everything that's been going on.
They're all down in front of, in between our houses, and we've got people with small children who are afraid to have their kids in their yard. It's disgusting.
So you are requesting that the township pick people off the private road?
I'm requesting that the township changes what you put online in reference to your property and in reference to it being part of the park until everything is settled.
That's something that's gonna have to come from your lawyer.
I think it already did.
You contact them. We're waiting to hear back. Vicky?
Can I ask a question about the mapping?
Yep.
Is it on the county GIS map or Google Maps?
The county GIS.
Not the township GIS.
I don't think
The township,
like a
Engage
regular
the
person will
county.
use a county GIS map.
I don't know what you mean by the township engage the county. The county does the GIS regardless, and if there's an error, we've contacted them. They made a change before. If there's a different change, let us know.
okay, second question then. You also put online your River of the Year Festival.
Yeah.
It states beer trucks for the park. You're gonna have beer trucks on park property
We are not.
with people going into the river.
No, I thought we talked about that, and said we weren't gonna waive that.
That is an error. Can you tell me where that is?
It says Smithfield Township, Miss Center, it was online. The Smithfield Township site.
Oh, no, it's on their website, but when you print it.
Um,
It's online, event details.
On our page?
Okay.
Gotta fix that.
Well, that can be fixed either way.
mhm.
Yep, I found it. I'll correct it tonight. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
So we had beer truck.
Yes, it looks like it was a copy paste mistake. I'm correcting it.
He had brought it up as maybe them doing, and we said no.
Yeah.
On that call.
Right, but then it was put
Yes, so-
online after that meeting.
And now it's being fixed after this one.
For the webmaster.
I've got the computer in front of me, so I'm just handling it now to get it fixed and corrected.
Martha?
So I have a question going way back to Pat's report. And I appreciate all the work that you guys do on the EAC and the fact that you're making priorities and all that. And I get that they're an advisory committee and all this, but I'm
Yeah.
confused. So either I forgot something or I missed something, so I'm asking you to fill me in. But going back a few years, there was like a township bond where there was like $2 million, there was matching funds, I think through the county, I believe, and it had to be used by a certain point or it was.
You had to,
lost.
They were
it gave permission to put a tax to collect, but the tax was never done. I believe that expires this year or next year.
Next, at the end of next year.
So it gives permission for the township, if they wanted to put a tax, they could, to raise funds.
Voted, I thought it went through and it's already.
It went through, it's the right to do it, but it didn't mean you had to
It
do
wasn't obligated to float the bond.
So that's why there's no money.
Tax would
We
never,
never moved forward with that.
there, I mean, you don't see a tax that says, it would be a separate tax, like your fire tax or your. Or your,
Essentially.
Okay.
effectively.
Just because I know there's some large tracts that were available, I think SPS sent a letter about the Brooks property. I don't know if you recall seeing the letter recommending that that be considered. And by the way, I'm sure you know Ted has a for rent for sale sign on Sun.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Do anyone know how much it's going for?
I don't know how much it's being rented for.
You're talking about the sign on Hollow Road in front of
Sun Mountain.
For Sun Mountain, which is the
Yeah.
development.
no, I got several calls about that. I talked to Ted Hunter about it. The part of it that fell down said for rent,
Right,
but what they're renting out or trying to rent out is just that long bunkhouse that's
It's the
there.
ugly yellow.
That Wyndham used to use for storage. Wyndham doesn't use it
Yeah.
anymore. It's vacant, so they wanted to rent it out. So
$2,900
It was-
a month.
it was a moment of hope.
But not for sale. It's not for sale.
Well, it says on the sign for sale.
they said for rent or for
Now it
sale.
says for rent. I looked at it today.
Oh,
They put that banner,
I try to buy the thing all the time. It
you
says,
know.
I think it's just like it's like a boilerplate sign that Keller Williams puts up that says for sale, and then on the bottom, it's got the
Rent.
for rent thing. which
Yeah, they
is
put
kind
that
of
on.
So just that one building.
I mean, I actually have a video of it, I can show it. I mean,
No,
it's like, this is not, it's not. So I was like, what?
It was a moment of elation till I found out what was going on.
It's not anything for me, man, I've signed off on that crap, so. Jack shit I can do about it, so unless I wanna chain myself to the bulldozers when they show up, but other than that.
Fair enough.
If you change yourself to a bulldozer, you'd have to come over to the Sun, to the, what is it, Shawnee, Valley Roads part of it, because that's the only piece that'll connect for years to what they wanna do, if they ever even do anything there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, well, you've been there, you've seen it, I mean, like, putting the road up that grade, it's not gonna be the easiest thing in the world, that's for sure. So, yeah, and then there's that,
Yeah. All right.
not my problem.
That said, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion to adjourn.
There's second. On favor. Aye. You adjourned at 7:24. Thank you, everybody.